is one of the reasons it's as good as it is, because a lot of farms like this are just part-time jobs for teachers or whoever, so they can do it on weekends or whatever. And but not us. This is all we do.
He tells us that over time the local workers have been becoming less and less reliable, and the demand is high for hardworking, dependable foreign workers.
Well, for the 25 years we had local people, and just over time it's just become more and more of a challenge. And about 6 years ago we were asked if we would consider hiring some foreign workers, and we had such a dismal fall with apples falling on the ground and just people not caring, either not showing up and bruising the apples, and even strawberries was just every Canada Day I spent in the field myself and my kids picking strawberries, trying to keep the store supplied. We've just been getting busier and busier and having to depend on local kids who just never showed up. Years ago we used to get pages of kids signing up to want to pick strawberries. I think last year we had 2. They showed up for a couple of days and never came back, and so we had to resort to it, and we didn't really look upon having people live here as an asset. But now that we've done it, I don't think I could ever go back. And these guys have been so dependable, and they're here 7 days a week if we want them, and they're just happy to do the work. I think the work here compared to what they have at home is a joke. It's so easy. They've been, as I told you earlier, they've been planting rice since they were knee-high to a grasshopper with their parents, waist deep in water 7 days a week, just to stay alive in Thailand, where they're from.
He says over the past 6 years, the Thai workers have become a vital part of the team at the orchard, and he has total trust in their capabilities of running the farm without having to be told what needs to be done on a constant basis.
This is our 6th year, and the guys now, our 2 main guys, know the business almost inside and out, and they can drive our forklift and our tractors. And now we had a local man who was with us for 19 years, and he died, and these guys have just stepped into the supervisory role, and they look after themselves completely, and it's taken so much weight off my shoulders not having to worry if people are falling asleep or slacking or whatever, because these guys are self-motivated and just want to do a good job. And their philosophy in life is, if we do a good job, you'll have more customers and we'll still have a job. And that's been their motto, and it's been working great for us.
Colin and his workers are worried about new Canadian legislation that limits the foreign workers in the number of different ways.
Well, the Conservative government has changed a lot of the rules, and it's made it a lot more difficult to get them to and from, and they're calling it now a temporary foreign workers that are only allowed to work for 4 years. So our guys are worried that after 4 years they can't come back for another 4 years, and I don't know why the Conservatives did that. Every farm in Ontario almost depends on immigrant workers or temporary workers, and what they think is going to happen or how that's going to change just makes it more difficult for everyone to get along.
He says his workers have become a part of the family at Campbell's Orchards, and he wishes there was more he could do for them.
We couldn't survive without them now. We've become so dependent on them. They've become part of the family. We play volleyball with them. We've taken them to parties. They've gotten to know a lot of our neighbors. They're just such likable people. They invite us to come to Thailand and stay with them, which I plan on, although there's a lot of spiders and different snakes that they keep telling me about too, but we thoroughly enjoy them. And if I could have them somehow become Canadian citizens some way, or temporary whatever, so they don't have to go through all this paperwork that restricts them so much, and the paperwork, they're on a work permit to us, and they can't work anywhere else but here. And if they came into the country and claimed refugee status, they get a refugee work permit, which allows them it's called an open work permit, where they can work anywhere they want to. And I wish our guys could have a little more flexibility, and it's allows some companies, in my opinion, to almost take advantage of them because they're stuck there, because their work permit is strictly licensed to them. And I won't say it enslaves them, but I think it would be nice to see it a little more flexible, so that they could do something else somewhere else and not be. And I think that's where maybe the government is making stiffer rules, because there are some companies that do take advantage of them and don't treat them as people as they should be, and that's what we've done. I've always believed if we treat people well, they'll treat me well, and it's worked well for us, and that's, you know, our philosophy.
Finally, Colin admits not knowing much Thai, but with television and other forms of media, the temporary workers at Campbell's Orchards are picking up English rather well.
They've adapted to English a lot better than I've adapted to Thai. I can barely count to 2 in Thai. I know the greeting of Sabadi Kap, which they greet me with every morning, and I know it's masculine and feminine because there's a feminine Ka and Kap for men, but they are mastering the English language by watching television. I've got them satellite TV in their house, and I don't know. They're doing a lot better in English than I've done in Thai.
It can begin with the simplest of gestures. A gift of time, energy, commitment. Something precious that grows stronger with every hand that touches it, and grows across communities and through the very fabric of our nation, and begins, once again, with the simplest of gestures. To Canada's 6.5 million volunteers, thanks.
Due to our country's declining baby boomer population, it is only logical to conclude that unless we balance the decrease in our population with an increase in immigration to our country, we will struggle to keep ourselves above water in the near or distant future. With the constant influx of newcomers into our society, we have seen a great number of businesses open up that are owned and operated by immigrants themselves. In the Quinte region, we see a number of newcomers owning convenience stores, gas stations, and many restaurants. Frank Cesario has owned and operated Pizza restaurant in Belleville for the past 20 years. He tells us that when he was just a little boy, his mother and father immigrated to Canada from Italy.
I'm originally from Italy, south of Italy, Calabria, and my parents chose Canada because it was the place of opportunity at the time. We're going back about since 1963 when we came to Canada the first time. So,
as a child coming to Canada, it was a little bit of a struggle for Frank, and he admits there were some difficulties at first.
The language is one. When I came to Canada and before I went to school, all I spoke was Italian. So basically getting to know the English language was a big hurdle because all my family was Italian, my grandparents spoke Italian. So the only time I actually learned English was when I went to school for the first time in grade 1, for example, back then, and all I knew was the Italian language. So that was the biggest hurdle at the time, was, you know, getting to learn the language and speaking to people and stuff like that. But after that was, after a few years and stuff like that, so it went all right.
He says that since he was so young when he came over, he does not really recall a change in weather.
I was young when I first came over, so I really didn't get to be climatized at all. I mean, for me, it was just like growing up in Canada because I came over as a youth.
Frank tells us how he became the owner of Pizza franchise here in Belleville and what he did before.
I used to work for the head office of Pizza first, and after 7 years of being an area market manager, I chose the Pizza business as my own franchise to purchase. I was working multiple hours for them, so I thought I'd do the same thing for myself and work for myself at the same time. So we purchased a franchise out here in Belleville.
He shares some of the not-so-glorious times spent getting his business up and running.
It was a rough start at first. My family was in Toronto at the time when I did purchase the store, and my sister-in-law lived out here in Belleville, so I used to stay with her sleep on the basement floor because there was not enough room in the space for the house itself. So I stayed for 3 months on her basement floor, sleeping and stuff. So yeah, it was a difficult start, but after about 3 months my family came out and we purchased our first house and stuff. So yeah, it was a great transition.
With the transition came great success and accomplishments for Frank. The proudest for him was without a doubt being asked by other Pizza franchises to be on the cover of Franchise Canada.
We made the cover of Franchise Canada magazine, me and my wife, as chosen from Pizza out of 400 operators to represent Pizza in the Canadian Franchise magazine. And that was one of our biggest achievements.
He says that along with success and accomplishments, owning your own business can also come with some minor drawbacks.
The disadvantages are it's multiple hours. So basically you're working from anywhere between 10, 15, 20 hours a day, depending on the business. Scheduling is very hard. We deal with a lot of teenagers and students, so trying to organize their school schedules. Drivers, we have to deal with drivers that have their own vehicles that break down. So you're always changing staff. The staff is always interchanging with themselves and things like that. So it's really hard to get a good team going. But once a team is going, I mean, it's a great operational thing.
Frank is always willing to offer a helping hand to anyone in the community. He knows there is a very diverse population and culture, even here in Belleville, and he tries to hire a multicultural staff so that everyone that walks through his doors in his restaurant feels comfortable being there.
It's just it's a great opportunity to meet people and work with different ethnic groups, and here at Pizza we try to hire different ethnic groups so everybody interchanges with each other and stuff like that. And it for the community itself, people see that there's a different diversity of people in here, so they feel comfortable walking in, because there's a lot of people in this little small area that speak different languages, and most of my staff are diverse that way, that we can actually speak their language. So that helps people coming into our business because they feel comfortable. It's not, sure, it's the pizza, it's the service or whatever, but it's the friendliness of the people that you can speak to that really makes it happen for us. Being involved in the community really helped us at all.
He recently hired a newcomer, Gonzalo, who knew no English when he first came aboard the team. But as Frank says, he can train anyone who has a desire to work.
It's excellent. Gonzalo has worked out very well. Again, we take anybody off the street that doesn't even have any experience, and we can teach them how to be a cook or be a responsible person in the store. And Gonzalo's worked out very, very well. He's a great part of our team right now.
He and his staff try to teach Gonzalo English on the fly.
We have Spanish people that work here, but I try to get away from that, where I say, guys, speak English to Gonzalo because he needs to learn the language more than we need to know Spanish, for example, right? But yeah, he's been great, and he's been more speaking to the other people and stuff like that, so it helps for himself, right?
As mentioned earlier, a decrease in birth rates here in Canada will mean our economy will have to rely heavily on immigrants in the years to come in order to sustain our population and economy. We must begin to realize that the only way the population in Canada will grow is through immigration. We hope you've learned a little more about the many immigrants we have working and owning businesses in the workforce in this episode of Breaking Barriers, a local look at a global perspective.